Welcome to Boomcast, the official podcast from boombox.io.
I'm Music by Lucas.
And I'm Noise London.
Store, collaborate, and connect like never before. Boombox.io is the new home of collaboration.
Also, don't forget that every month, boombox.io is giving away $500 worth of studio equipment.
So if you want to win $500 gift card for your studio, today's question is, which hip-hop artist is your favorite? If you like hip-hop, if you have any favorite rappers, comment them down below. Or if you don't like hip-hop, comment that as well.
Today we have a very special guest, producer, content creator.
Everything.
A bit of everything. And Larry, you've been around since I did a little bit of digging here, and I checked when you started your Instagram, which was in 2011.
We did a background check on you. So we Fabio knows some
pull
people.
up some dirt.
Yeah, pull up some dirt. I saw, well, it's on your Instagram too, though. 18 years of working in FL Studio.
Yeah. I started out on FL4.
Oh man.
FL Studio, Fruity Loops 4. It wasn't FL back then. It was just Fruity Loops 4.
Fruity Loops. Biggest question then right off the bat is, what is the biggest difference that has happened in music production from when you very first started to now? Like, what would you say if you could think of any one thing, or maybe two things, but what do you think?
I mean, on the topic of FL, I think the biggest thing that's happened is the awareness and the hate has slowly gone away about FL. When I started on FL back then, I had every friend, every producer that I knew, every engineer that I knew was like, yo, you need to get off of Fruity Loops, man. You need to be pro. You ain't going to be a pro with FL Studio with Fruity Loops. Now,
you got to produce on PlayStation.
Yeah, right. Now it's like running the industry. It's the biggest in hip hop right now in trap music. It's the biggest, and it's right up there with EDM as well. It's that between that and Ableton with EDM and some other genres. That has slowly shifted and it has gone away. There's still some of that based around vocal production, but I try to put that to rest too on my page. I try to make it a point to talk about that as well, that it's great for vocal production too. It's gotten a lot better over the years.
100%. I mean, whenever I do polls with our audience too, which DAW do you use? And Logic Pro, Ableton, FL Studio, it's always FL Studio's like 60-70%. Like it really is a big time DAW. Yeah, but I don't think many people remember, at least not my audience, that it used to be called Fruity Loops for the most part.
Yep.
Hold on a second. Is it the most used DAW because it's also the easiest to crack? Let's be real here.
It could be.
That's what a lot of people say.
And it also could be because it's the easiest to learn and the most user-friendly.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. And it's PC.
And easiest to get.
Yeah.
Easiest to get.
We should have people comment below what kind of DAW they use. Because, that is a good question. Because there was a point, though, it's really funny. So back before I was like more of a skilled producer, when I was still trying to like figure out like how do the pros make their mixes sound so good, I would watch people on YouTube and I'd see them using FL Studio. And I just had this like thing, you know how you kind of like trick yourself into thinking that there's like this like secret. And I'm like, it's FL Studio. Like that's how they do it. So I go and I partition my Mac back in the day because you couldn't have FL Studio on Mac. So I got a Windows on my Mac. I added it in there, and then I realized quickly, oh, it's not the DAW. And it was actually really hard for me to use FL Studio as a Logic Pro native user because it's a completely different experience.
Oh yeah, coming over from Logic, it's night and day. I did the opposite, where I started out on FL, and then I got hired as an engineer in a studio, and all he used was Logic. And he was like, yo, if you're going to engineer in here, I got to keep it with Logic so then I can go and I can mix afterwards, because he was a videographer as well. So he was like getting so much work. He's like, I need help in my studio. So you come in, engineer, record, do a little bit of mixing. He's like, I'll finish off the mixes. So I had to learn Logic like pretty much, front to back quick.
Wow.
In order to like start working in there. So I did the opposite. I love using Logic though for vocal production. It was great because at that time, FL wasn't that great with vocal production.
Yeah.
So I like the combination.
How did you find the switch from FL Studio to Logic? Did it make sense? Like, because obviously I always find the main thing switching from one DAW to the other. So I go between Logic and Ableton is just remembering the shortcuts.
Well, you're all about the shortcuts, right? You got those
up.
mouse pads and you got all the stuff that help you with the productivity and the workflow.
Yeah. I started these mouse pads a couple of years ago, and I have all the shortcuts for all the DAWs. So that honestly, it helps me once in a while because there's so many of them that I'll forget them. But I have my core that I've learned and just kind of burned into my memory over the years. But yeah, having that switch going into Logic wasn't too bad, wasn't too crazy, because I think like once you know a DAW,
Yeah.
it's just like the workflow and, like you said, Fabio, the shortcuts. That's really what it's about. And the track system, the way everything's tracked out in Logic is more like Pro Tools, where those tracks actually make sense. Where in FL Studio, when you go into the playlist, they don't necessarily correspond. I mean, now you can link them into the mixer, but they don't necessarily correspond with the mixer. Where in Logic or Pro Tools, all those tracks on the left-hand side going up and down, they correspond.
Do you ever think that you're going to commit fully to one DAW or the other, or are you happy sort of bouncing between the two?
Right now I'm committed to FL, but then I had to be kind of
Right.
split. And then
Exactly.
I think I was just in like such a learning phase then, where I just wanted to like, I wanted to touch everything. And I was working in studios, I was working with different producers, and I was kind of forced into learning a little bit here and there. But FL Studio has always been my main thing. And as soon as I from then I started using what else did this guy use? He used Nuendo, which is Cubase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that as well for vocal production, because he was between Mac and Windows. So in Mac, in his studio, he was using Logic, and then when he was switched to Windows, we were using Nuendo and Cubase, and I got to learn that, and then I started using Cubase in my studio as well when I was doing vocal production and I was booking clients. I was using Cubase, and then slowly I would like bounce those vocals out into FL because I could mix better in FL.
Right.
Personally, I could get a cleaner mix in FL, but the recording process just wasn't flowing correctly for me. It wasn't flowing nice as those other DAWs.
So if you guys don't know, Larry has this, I got it just in case you don't know, Larry Ohh has this catchphrase like in all of his posts, on all of his marketing, it's always "you get me." So that's what I wanted to know, where that came from.
Yeah. So it was started as an inside joke. I don't know if you've seen my bro Peter Piffin. I've done a ton of music with him, and we've put out countless projects. And we'd be hanging out in the studio together a lot. We were watching videos and off time doing music, and we stumbled across, the guy, the Man's Not Hot guy. Probably you might know, he's from the UK. He has his own variety show, right?
Yeah.
It's like like a big variety show where he does all these different characters. And he would say it all the time with this one specific character. It was like an Uber driver character. And we just like latched onto it. And it went from him saying it kind of like more proper, like you get me, into us just going back and forth with you get me. And then it just started popping up in everyday conversations, inside joke. From there, I started like just sprinkling it in my social media, like not even saying it in my content, just putting it in the descriptions. And I would go to shows and people would start saying it to me. I'm like, this is like so random but hilarious at the same time. So I just started putting in all my content in some way, just trying to be funny with it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, really cool because
naturally.
Yeah, and it's really something good for branding. I mean, it's something people think about when they think about you. Also, just all the stuff that you do, the mouse pads, those are things I think of. Like if someone was like, I would think FL Studio. Like there's certain things that I think of when I think Larry Ohh, and I think that's really important for producers to have, or if it's something they want to do is to build a fan base, which so many do, and especially to be more of like an influencer. It's very important to be able to have your key elements that stand out. Were those things that you thought of, like, because the "you get me," you said it kind of just happened, flew into the content. Has that always been something for you where things just kind of happened as they happened, or did you have anything where you kind of planned out like this is going to be my brand?
Yeah, there was some things that were definitely calculated. I think it's a combination of things that happen naturally, also having that in the back of my mind of the power of branding. So I would always look out for certain things that would catch on naturally that I could use in branding, like that. Like, and then my the logo that I used forever, I recently just kind of switched it up, especially like my default was the same default for like 6 years straight, right? So that just happened naturally too. That came from a real photo shoot where a friend of mine turned it into a cartoonish looking thing, and then I just used it. It wasn't even supposed to be a logo, happened to be my logo. I would always have it spinning in at the beginning of videos. I got that from I was inspired by Gary V's videos around that time, where he was putting those like different his logo in the very beginning mixed with a sound. So from there I started thinking, I can mix this logo and have it be its own like I don't know, what do you call it? Like a
Yeah.
stinger almost.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Like how Netflix, has the bong and the,
Exactly.
yeah,
Like NBC,
exactly.
like
Yeah,
how NBC has the dun dun dun, how like
exactly.
logo
Sonic
pops up with
branding.
the peacock. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
A visual with an audio
Hmm.
branding. So it happened naturally, but at the same time, it was calculated in a way where I knew I could use this for branding and it would work.
I want to know kind of what was going on at the beginning of your journey, how you set off, and you're still here. Well, okay, I know you started earlier than 2011, but you started Instagram in 2011. That's 12 years in the game, and you've got real dedication. You've shown how much success you can have from that. So, how did you start off, and what were your intentions?
I always wanted to be a music producer. In high school, I would listen to beats. I would drown out the vocals for the first 10 times I listened to a song. I wouldn't even hear the vocals for a while. I would just hone in on the beats. I would just like highly focused on the bass and the music behind everything. And then I would always try to like think like, oh damn, like I think I can make this. I think I want to learn how to make this. I gotta reverse engineer how they're doing this. I gotta find out, because I'm getting such a crazy feeling from this music that I've been listening to lately, around that time in high school, that I just became obsessed with learning how to do it. From there, I went on the internet and searched on how to make beats. And I think, like you said earlier, probably one of the first things that popped up was Fruity Loops, FL Studio. And I got it. And I was determined to just figure out how to do it. And from there, I guess the goal was at that time was to get placements to make it big. At that time, there wasn't really any content creators at that time. It was early on. Even for YouTube, it was kind of early on, right? So there wasn't even that much information on YouTube about FL Studio. So I was, and this is how I know that I was obsessed with it, because I hated school. Normally, if it's stuff like book stuff at school, I can't sit there and read it. My brain will go off in a million different directions. But for some reason with music production, I sat there for hours and I would read these forums on how to do certain things in FL Studio. And I just became obsessed with it.
I feel the same way about music production. Like, I feel like I also have some sort of ADHD. I do find it hard to read. I'll force myself to do it. But when you're sitting there and you're making a record, there are so many things to think about. And there's so many new moments of inspiration when you're in that flow state, that your mind is able to bounce between all these ideas and somehow bring them together, right? And I was same as you. I went into production about full-time about 10 years ago. And I remember it was the first time I was ever dedicating hours a day to reading and researching and downloading and practicing, whether it was mixing or synthesis or editing vocals. And I was like, man, if only I'd had this when I was like 12 years old, maybe I'd be like a virtuoso now.
It's wild. And you realize things about yourself, about how, like, I don't know. I think the same thing with my son too. Right now, I can see that already in him. He's 7, and I can already see that. I can see that he has that type of personality where if it doesn't fully lock him in and interest him, he's like, I don't want to deal with it. But if it's something that he's interested in, like, he knows it front to back, side to side. He knows everything about it. It took a while for me to find something like that. I found it kind of later in life, and a lot of people start music at a very, very young age, 6, 7, 8, 10. Like, I started when I was like 17 or 18.
What do you think helped you, like, business wise? Because obviously you learned how to make music, you got better at music, you perfected your music. Like, what was the next steps that help you be able to do it full time, and what kind of helps you still do it today?
First thing that started me with making it full time and actually like paying some bills with it was engineering and running my own studio. So yeah, I wanted to be just like a music producer. I wanted to make beats, but I would always try to find, like, all right, I had the, reality hit me where I was like, all right, I'm not gonna be able to like sell enough beats to like make a full living. So is there something in music that I also love to do that I could make money with and still be happy? Because with me and a normal job, never mixed, hated it. I worked a decent amount of jobs. I worked since I was 14 years old, but I got to a point where I was like, hey, this ain't it. For my whole life, I'm not doing this. I can't do it. I have to do something with this music. to make money. There's got to be a way that I can make money with it. So early on, it was running my own studio and booking clients, going to shows, getting clients, and networking. Word of mouth spread around, and then that made it full time for me. And from there, I could also sell beats because I had artists coming in that were rapping and singing on other beats,
Nice.
and I could pitch my beats to them while they were in the studio. I created great relationships, sold a lot of beats locally, and had a fully booked clientele out of my studio. Well, as full as I wanted it to be, because I didn't like having like tons of random people in, but I was full time enough to where I was paying bills with music, and that's how it really started. From there, it shifted more when I started, and then around that time, I started doing more social media stuff because I was like, all right, how can I expand this? So I can only cap my price at so much with local artists where, all right, I'll hit a ceiling money wise, and yeah, I'm paying bills, but like I want more freedom, and I want to do more of what I love to do. I love engineering, I love this stuff, but and then from there, I kind of found my passion with teaching and teaching music producers, and that the whole thing kind of shifted from me wanting placements and studio clients into my audience, and started being music producers.
It's interesting you say that. I think we had a very similar past. I also I was working a few jobs, and I was just like, this is not very productive. How can I be in the studio all the time? And then I think if you produce, a byproduct of production is engineering, because you kind of have to do it. And some people just can't be bothered, right? So you take that out of their hands, you learn to engineer, you start charging money for it. And then you're like, oh, not only am I making money from mixing and mastering now, or recording, I'm also getting better at it because I'm doing it every day. And then as a result, your own music gets better, and you're in this like awesome productivity loop. And just same as you, Larry. I mean, I was doing that for a while, and then I was like, how can I? But right now, I'm only reaching an area of London, right, or part of London. How can I globalize my business? And then started Noise, and then I never set out to be a content creator, though. I don't know if you felt the same, but I never set out to be. I don't like the word influencer. I like the word content creator because influencer has a bad rap these days.
It does. Yeah.
And it's funny how now I'm still able to do the things I love, like make music, engineer, but content creation definitely takes up most of my time. Do you find it's the same with your day to day?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think everybody has to be a content creator now. So even I know that's our main thing is content creation, but in order to run the business and hold that attention, content creation is always up there on the list.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important that you're doing content that you actually enjoy and like to do, and not just, doing stuff you think you have to do or whatever you get. But that takes a while, obviously, to find your thing and the thing that works for you. And I know we all have a little bit of different content styles, which is cool because they all work and we all have success from doing different things, which is really fun. And I know there are some big questions I actually want to get at, me and Fabio want to get into with you on like how to sell your beats, how to like things that could help producers be able to like have a career in music, because you've just been doing it for such a long time.
We just want to take a moment to thank Boombox for this collaboration. Don't forget to check out boombox.io in the show notes, or the link in the description below. But now is our time for the out the box question. Lucas, what have you got for us?
Yes, the out of the box question for today, for you guys and for you guys who are watching or listening to the podcast, is which music genre would you produce if you weren't producing the one that's like your main genre now? So Larry, if you weren't producing hip hop, what would be the genre that you think you would go for?
I'll say EDM.
Okay. Any particular style of EDM? House music?
I mean, I like the EDM stuff that's the most similar to hip hop. A lot of heavy bass, like future bass stuff.
Yeah, bass house is dope too. It's true.
Yeah. Anything trap related, I love.
Ooh.
I just love like hard. Yeah, I just love 808s and just hard beats. This is
some of the
my
trap
favorite
stuff. I hear it and I'm like, how the hell did they do that? Like, it's just like,
wild.
It's wild. What about you, Fabio?
I would love to do some cinematic Hans Zimmer style music, but only because I think it would be so cool to conduct an orchestra in a live recording setting.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
When you see those producers who can like literally like just play any instrument by ear and can conduct and just they're everywhere all over the place, you're just like in awe. For me, mine's different. Mine would be, I think I would actually like to produce lo-fi. I find it to be really chill. I like to listen to it while I work. I don't know if you guys ever listen to it just to like chill out. Like there's no lyrics. It's really easy to just not like get, because sometimes when there's lyrics in music, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll find myself, well, Larry, you said you don't even listen to the lyrics, but I find myself getting caught up in them sometimes. So I do like lo-fi.
Yeah, lo-fi is awesome.
So let's get into the big question that we have for you, which is basically like, to anyone out there who wants to know how to like sell beats, because I think that's something, a good topic to talk about, because we haven't covered that with anyone else before. What are like some strategies that you would have for someone, especially someone maybe who doesn't really have a social media following yet?
Yeah, I guess it's like anything else. Like how are people selling products right now? It's you have to be, and we just mentioned this a few minutes ago too. You have to be a content creator. You just have to be. That's the world we're living in now. You're not going to sell beats unless you're creating some sort of content. And the days of putting up a piece of art, a visualizer, are done. Right?
Yes.
I think we all can agree on that.
100%.
Those days are over. So it has to be interesting. It has to gain some sort of attention. I think you have to make sure that you're on all platforms. Pick one that's like your main, and then kind of spread and repurpose content across the other ones. Pick one that you're really comfortable with. A lot of people think that they have to like be 100% on every single platform. You could just pick one, but pick one that's really relevant. You know, like don't pick one that is dying out like Snapchat. Like Snapchat's going to be my new platform to like to gain some attention. So pick a decent one that has a lot of attention on it and run with it.
What do you think about producers who, because I hear this one all the time and I have my own opinions on it, but a lot of producers are scared to put their music out there because they think people are going to steal it. And that's like a common one. And I'm just curious what you think about that.
Don't worry about it.
Right.
I know it's hard to think like if people are stealing your music, that's a good thing. That means that some people want it. So if you should like thrive to get your you should like push towards getting your music stolen, because if it's not getting stolen, that means nobody wants it.
That's
so
hilarious.
If your music's getting stolen like that, if your beats are getting ripped off of YouTube, that means people want it. That means there's a product there for you to sell. That means you can triple down on that.
Plugin companies have the same approach now, where they factor in people cracking their software into their price point, because if loads of people are cracking your software, it means loads of people are using it. It means it's good. Eventually people are going to buy it because they're going to get fed up of the serial keys. But 100%. And there was a story recently of this producer who just put out he made a J. Cole type beat. And then J. Cole posted about this, and he was like, yeah, I actually just went onto YouTube. I was looking for a beat and did a whole record and then just gave it to him as a present. So you just never know. You just, what opportunities you're going to create. I think we can't live in a time now where we feel protective about our art. And it's the same in the dance music scene, right? You can create a banger, send it to a DJ. That DJ might play it for 6 months and then not sign it, right?
Right.
And if you're hanging on to that one track, maybe so-and-so's going to sign it, it's going to sign it, keeps playing it, and you're focusing on that rather than making another banger and supply it, right? Then don't be protective of your art. Have fun with it, and just realize that if it's getting attention, if it's getting played, that's the best position you could be in.
And that's one of the coolest things about Reels and TikTok and stuff too, though, is they're so short. Like I've really been pushing artists to like, if you want to remix a track, do a 10-second remix, do a 15-second remix, put it out there, see what happens. If people like it, then you can release it, and if someone's going to steal like a 5-second beat, that's not really a thing you need to be worried about anyway. But yeah, that's a really good point, Fabio and Larry.
That's the world we're living in, right? Everybody wants everything for free. So you just got to give it to them for free. Until you figure out that you have a product that's worth selling.
That's actually a really good point. And that's another question I wanted to ask you actually, is how can artists like negotiate for the price that they're worth? How do they know what they're worth? How can they, if they've never sold a beat before, what should they do, for their first time?
That's a tough one, because everybody thinks, that everybody wants to sell it for more than what they think it's worth at the beginning anyways. That's always been tough for me too, like when I was like, because right now I'm not really out there trying to sell beats on a day-to-day basis,
right?
But when I was, I had BeatStars account, I had beats up on YouTube. I had beats up
I had
like
beats on MySpace.
yeah, right. I did too, bro. I did
Yeah.
too because I started. I started, and that's like where the first. That was the first place I was starting to post my beats was MySpace. That's
Same.
like the only place they were on MySpace. I wish I could
Dude,
find them.
MySpace music was the best.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Everything about MySpace was good. I might get onto Chat GPT after this and ask it to code me MySpace so I can relaunch it.
Oh, hilarious. This is a fun fact, and I have no way to prove this because this was back in the day when you weren't taking like screenshots and there, like it was just like a long time ago. But I was in the top 100 most popular MySpace music pages on the trending charts for hip hop beats back a long time ago. And actually my account got hacked back in the day and someone deleted it, and I tried to restart it and it was like a whole thing. But that was back in the day when there was no two-factor authentication, when you had to have like, when I had like, probably my password was probably something like password. But the cool thing was because it made it to those charts, I actually was able to sell my beats. And I remember my dad had his own small business, and basically I took the contract from their like Microsoft Word and just like for his business and just changed it out to like my DBA, my small business name. And then I would like literally I would mail out contracts and have them send back a mailed signed cashier's check back to me for the beat, and then I would send them the beat by email. So
Wow.
those are just some old school methods right there before BeatStars, which maybe it was around back then, but that's how I did
Hustling.
it. Yeah, for real.
I think back then it was SoundClick. Back then it was SoundClick.
Oh.
I think that was like one of the only ones around. I remember there was a couple of producers that were big that are still around now. I think Superstar O, he was big on SoundClick. It's crazy to see how like some of those guys, a couple of them are still around.
It's funny though, because I was selling beats and I didn't even like, they were good beats melodically and stuff, but I didn't know what EQ was, sidechain, compression. I was just in Logic and I was just using the stock plugins and I was just making melodies, throwing drums in there, and it worked, When
you're starting out and actually like you're way more naive about your approach and you don't get into a lot of detail, you do have a lot more fun with it and you're more productive as a result. And the deeper you get and the more you realize that there is to learn, you spend less time actually just like enjoying the music making process. But then there's also part of you that gets bored of that, right? And you have this desire to learn more, and that's why you do. But then you realize, this is a steep learning curve. It's gonna be a while. Did you feel that way, Larry, when you started making?
Yeah. It just sparked something like when you mentioned that, when you guys both mentioned that, because very specifically the project that I did with Peter Piffin, I think it was 2016, best project I ever put out musically and the best it was ever received publicly. I mean, we've gotten like something like 20 million on maybe on Spotify and across other platforms. I mean, if you include YouTube, it's probably like up to 50 million streams across everything. And it all started from SoundCloud, but then to be specific to your point, to go back on that and listen, sometimes I'll go back and I'll listen every once in a while to the most popular song and I'm like, damn, this mix is like not good.
Right.
Like this mix is just not good. I'm like, how, like, why did I didn't do sidechain then. I didn't do like certain things. I feel like the kick is just like not in the right key. Like I feel like I didn't tune the kick drum, like just little things I'm picking out. And I'm like, I wasn't aware of those. And I was just focused on just the music at that point,
And it felt good, focused,
and it just felt good, which is why it did well. That's the reason. It got a little bit of a boost on SoundCloud, and from there it took off completely organically. We never ran an ad, we never paid for anything, never did anything like that. It just, the music just hit well with people, and it just it took off. And I wasn't worried about the logistics of things and specifics.
That's another good point too, which is that I think another question that I get from a lot of producers is like, oh, you got to have money to, pay for ads, or should I just promote my post, or should I buy followers, or they think money essentially is the answer. And of course, money is a great thing to have in life. But you can do so much, and all these accounts and all of us, all grew with like $0 in ads. It's not about that. It's about finding that organic content and making stuff that people are actually going to watch, because you can put and I don't know what your opinions are on this, Larry, but it's like you can put money behind your post and it's not really going to help you grow, like unless maybe it's a post that's made for that. But it's like it's not the answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's so many organic ways. Like I said, we have to be content creators. We have to get really good with creating content that gains attention quickly especially in the short form world that we live in. Of course, there's ways to do it with YouTube and long form and like just music in general. I've seen people that are just like nonstop releasing music and they're not even posting too much content, but somehow through Spotify. But then there's also a ceiling with that I've seen happen, and that happened with us at the beginning, because in 2016 I wasn't posting that much content, especially the way I do now. So the way we gained all that attention was directly from SoundCloud, pushed into Spotify, did really well in the whole Spotify world, had a lot of monthly listeners. But then you come to the realization that if we tried to do a show somewhere, nobody would come, nobody would know. Like, so how do you get those fans from Spotify? Because there's a ton of producers and artists right now that have legit plays and legit like millions of streams on Spotify and
no one
across
would come
the
to a
platforms,
show,
but nobody knows them. So it's like that's where that content creation comes in. Like you have to learn how to pull those fans from Spotify. If that's the way that you've gained that attention, how do we pull those fans over? And to go back on the point of paying for things, yeah, you can pay for things. Say if you have you got $1,000 to put on something to pay for some sort of promotion, make sure that you're putting it in the right spots, but also be real with the fact that if you paid for that and it did go to the right places and the attention just wasn't there, like maybe the music just wouldn't go good on its own anyway. The music wasn't that great. It just didn't hit right. So, I mean, there's different ways to go about it. You can gain that attention by paying for it, or you can gain that attention by being really good at content creation with organic content.
Sounds like there's a piece of software missing in the industry that converts your Spotify followers to Instagram followers.
Right. That's an app that needs to happen, right? What excites you? Because you've been in it for 18 years. What excites you for the future? What's keeping you going? And what do you think the future looks like for just in general for the music industry? I'd be curious to know your thoughts on that.
I think the big thing right now everybody's talking about is AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI. I'm excited about it. Some people are nervous. Some people are scared. Some people haven't started a career and they're already scared. Some people haven't started making money with music and they're already petrified of AI. Like, damn, I'm like trying to get into this and now AI is already going to take my job. I don't think it's going to take people's jobs. I think what it's going to do is it's going to be another tool. If we figure out how to use that tool to our fullest potential and to benefit our business and our careers, I think it's going to be great. I think it's just going to be another faster way of doing things. Another faster way of pushing content out, or a faster way of pushing music out more efficiently, just like samples and loops, or a plugin that comes along and it's like, oh, this is a chord generating plugin. This is going to ruin the music industry. No, it's not. It's a tool. You know what I'm saying? It's just another tool that you can have in your producer tool belt. That's what AI is going to be. So I'm excited about that, to be honest. I'm really excited where that's going to go.
I don't have a question, but just on the note of what you were saying about the track that you released and you didn't like the mix, there's a track that I really like, and I suggest everyone go listen to it. It's called "Trust Nobody" by Hippie Sabotage. Do you know that track, Larry?
No.
And it's a banger. It's an absolute banger, but like the mix is not that good. Like it's kind of distorted and crunchy and is a bit muddy, but man, I vibe so hard to that record.
Doesn't matter, right? It's good enough for you to listen to.
It's a great record, and I think this is something that I always tell my clients is a great mix is still a bad song, but a great song can have a bad mix.
Good point. Like that.
And it's just like people
100%.
are very focused on the engineering side of things, which, okay, it's important. No doubt I'm an engineer, so I support the fact that it is important, but it's not as important as making a great record. So go listen to that record, guys, see what you think, and listen out for how, I won't say bad the mix is, how vibey the mix is.
How vibey.
Let's go with that.
I like it. Well, thank you so much, Larry, for taking the time to be here today and answering some of those big questions. I think it's super helpful, and always loving seeing your content. And I'm excited to continue to chat and see where you're going and everything that you're doing in the future.
Thanks, man. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Great
so
talking.
much, Larry. Don't forget that if you want a chance to win $500 worth of studio equipment, all you have to do is comment down below with what your favorite hip-hop artist is and why.
Yeah, or if you want to comment, like we asked a bunch of questions in this video, so comment answers to any of those questions, but also go check out Larry Ohh. Larry, is it just at Larry Ohh on all platforms?
On
That's
everything.
with 2 H's.
Yep. 2 H's. Larry
Love
Ohh
it.
on every platform. Yep.
There you go. And give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe if you want more of this type of content. And you can find me at Music by Lucas.
And myself at noise_London. Everything and all the details are in the link in the description below. So don't worry if you missed it.
And of course, Boombox is at boombox.io. Okay, let's do this. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Later.